Jen, take it away.
Yeah, so at the end of the news, we mentioned that Roche-Posay has a new mixer.
We're getting nerdy.
We're getting nerdy.
All right,
so
let's do it.
First, we need a refresher on UVA.
Okay.
Your SPF value is talking about UVB. That is the more energetic part of the spectrum. It causes sunburns.
Shorter wavelength.
Yes. And UVA is longer wavelength. It accounts for more of the UV light. It's less damaging in terms of like immediate consequences. It doesn't necessarily cause burns. But I'm sure you guys all know, time and time again, it's been shown to cause long-term damage, including DNA damage. It does contribute to the likelihood of skin cancer. Yeah, so anyway, UVA is a big proponent in skin aging. Revisit episode 5 for all the nitty-gritty on why it's important and the different claims you'll see on your packaging, like PA++ or broad spectrum, and what that means. Now we're going to dive a little deeper.
Let's do it.
The full UVA spectrum covers the wavelength between 315 and 400 nanometers. Now, at 400 nanometers, that's the widest wavelength in the UVA range. It's inching really close to visible light. Anyway, so this part of the wavelength is very important. But what's interesting, what a lot of people don't know, is that to get an FDA-approved broad spectrum claim, your sunscreen product, that critical wavelength, which means that, it's kind of like where the 90% absorption happens, has to be at 370 nanometers, which means it covers enough of the UVA spectrum. It doesn't necessarily tickle all the way. Yeah.
And we should emphasize, it's not that we don't want to cover everything. It's that it gets way more difficult as we get further and further into the wavelength size.
So UVA, you'll see literature and you'll see Instagram posts from SciComm communicators. They'll tell you that you can consider UVA into UVA1 and UVA2. This is going to there's a lot of numbers flying around, but just try to bear with us. UVA2 is 315 to 340, so it's adjacent to UVB. And the UVA1 is at the 340 to 400 range, which means that, okay, we are trying to cover as much UVA1 as possible, but most sunscreen out there won't cover all the way to 400.
Yep.
So then, of course, there's like that. There are people out there claiming things like, our sunscreen covers as much as possible. You'll hear I don't even want to call it the gold standard. The only chemical UVA filter available to us in the US is avobenzone. Usually 3% avobenzone is that critical amount of sunscreen that will tip your sunscreen over, give it that critical wavelength of like 375, 380 to kind of give you that claim. Now, zinc oxide will also get you there. But this is where La Roche-Posay comes in. Their new Maxor technology, they claims, can cover all the way to the 400 range and be that truly full spectrum, even UVA1 protection. So it's really interesting, and we just want to highlight, not to alert you to your current sunscreen, but it's more like to highlight the difficulties and challenges of sunscreen and why it's super important to get a broad spectrum claim, if not at least like a sunscreen with a PA++ claim that we really appreciate.
I want to go back to what you said about, not being able to absorb the whole curve. Like, remember that, first of all, UVA is almost like a subset, or not a subset. UVA is only a portion of your sun protection.
Yes.
And the FDA cares a lot more about skin cancer, so their focus is on UVB. So that's why that they consider 90% of UVA coverage good enough, And so because of that, I think I'm more worried that people are like, oh my God, I'm still not getting enough sunscreen protection. And that's really not the case at all. It's just a matter of there's ways to do even better. And so, what's funny is, when we were kind of talking about this, we talked about how it's like, it's a 20 nanometer increase in improvement.
Oh, yeah. That's literally the press release. It's like, we get the last 20 nanometers.
Yeah. So it sounds really
It almost feels insignificant.
Exactly. It sounds like it's so small, but in some ways, we really like this effort because we had always known that the standard was 90% of the absorbance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I also want to just go into a little bit of the history of the Maxwell line.
Yeah, that's great.
It's kind of hard to find on the U.S. market because it's patented by L'Oreal. So for the most part, you'll only find it in La Roche-Posay, maybe Biotherm, but you'll see it because they patent it. You'll see it loud and clear on the packaging. Maxwell.
Yeah.
The original Maxwell and Maxwell SX. What is important is because, as I mentioned, avobenzone is the only chemical sunscreen available in the US that covers the UVA range.
Yeah.
And it sucks. It's very, very unstable.
Yeah, it really is.
And there are ways to stabilize in formula, but of course, in terms of sunscreen reliability, you always want to do better.
Yep.
In Asia, they have Tinosorb, which covers a big range of the UVA, covering both UVA 1 and 2 range. Of course, not all the way to 400, but also stretching into UVB even.
But we don't get it.
We're stuck with avobenzone. So the Maxwell sunscreen has superior texture and stability to avobenzone. So that's why a lot of times you'll hear us reference La Roche-Posay's Anthelios line because La Roche-Posay uses the Maxwell technology a lot. And now with this new technology, it's not available in the US yet because, FDA shenanigans.
Yeah.
But we'll keep an eye out. Maybe we'll ask one of our European friends to get our hands on this. But I also want to, it's exciting news. New UV technology is always really interesting to us. So we'll keep tabs on it, keep an eye out for a review. And I really, really want to just showcase the artwork because it made me laugh really hard. Because I think they wanted to highlight that, we're covering extra range. But they have these arrows pointing down. And it just looks like their sunscreen is penetrating deeper and harder than others out there.
Hello, FDA. You'll really like this one with all the drama you're dealing with the bloodstream.
Hello, L'Oreal PR department. Are you aware that it's probably not the best signal you're sending people?
Also, it's called UVMune, and I don't really know what that means. I know they're trying to say immune to UV, but I just feel like it's I'd rather just say Maxoral 400 so now people can know what to look for.
Yeah. Anyway, dear L'Oreal PR or La Roche-Posay marketing,
sponsor us today.
Yeah. We'll get you a bubble guy and less penetrating graphics.
Oh my god. Oh, all right.
That concludes the meeting.
Yeah, yay. So honestly, that's really exciting. It is a facet of UVA protection that I would say people have had questions about, and there hasn't been honestly a lot of new technology in this department yet. So honestly, I can't wait to try. I think people will appreciate it. But other than that, that is the meat, and I hope it was helpful and there was at least one thing you did not know about your sunscreen.
Yeah, so I feel like every time we do sunscreen, it's a chunky episode. So
that's fair. We already finished our beer.
Yes.
That's how chunky it was.
Yes.
Cool.
Ask us questions. Let us know if it's helpful. We try to paint complete pictures, but sometimes it gets complicated. We don't want to ramble. So let us know if you have more questions on any of the things we talked about today.
Yeah, and sometimes there's just not a clear picture yet. Yes. So, all right.